I'm not gonna lie, I had to double check at least 3 times that I was properly framed for this video, because if you saw the video that I did yesterday, I didn't include any of myself because I wasn't properly framed in the video, and that's just it's an aggressively rookie move to make, and I've been doing these way too long for me to not properly frame myself. Even though I don't have the benefit of the selfie camera, I use the back camera on this phone, I don't use the forward camera. But even that being said, like, I should be able to look at the camera and see how far I am, and if it makes sense given the focal length of the default 1 times whatever. It was just a very, very dumb move on my part, and honestly, I'm gonna go check to make sure that I'm even recording right now. Okay, yeah, we're good. I was It's like day 11 of spring training, but who's counting? Andrew Bagley almost killed us on a hike in Camelback Mountain yesterday by saying at the very beginning of the hike that it was easy, and then proceeding to take me, Maria, and Shayna on the hardest hike of our lives. Things are going great out in Arizona, but let's talk a little bit of Giants baseball. The biggest news to come out of today being that Landen Roupp will be the Giants starter for their Cactus League opener against the Texas Rangers over in Surprise, which is roughly about an hour from Scottsdale. And as far as who's specifically going to play in this game, again, given the fact that it's an hour bus ride, you can kind of deduce the guys that would make the trip. It would be very surprising if many of the veterans made the trip to Surprise, but if you're looking to make the trip and you're trying to project forward, it's probably going to be a lot of prospects, and there is a certain first base prospect who may ride the bus, may make that hour-long trip to and from Surprise. But again, Roupp is going to be getting the start, and I talked to him early in spring. I asked him about his repertoire in particular. He said he's going to be adding a cutter. He's also going to be trying to reincorporate his four-seam fastball more into the mix as well. It's a pitch that he only threw 1.6% of the time last year, and if you look at the heat maps of it, granted, it's not a super big sample size, but pretty much everything was just missing up in the zone. Now we're finally getting to the time where, as much as I love live bullpens, I love having data that we can dive into, seeing velocity, spin rates. I actually don't know if Surprise has StatCast capabilities. I guess we're going to find out on Saturday whether they do or not, and we'll also find out on Saturday we might find out tomorrow who else is going to pitch and who else is going to make the trip down there, so stay tuned for that. But as far as the other big piece of news from today on the injury front, Tyler Fitzgerald resumed baseball activities today, had been kind of dealing with a lower back issue, the same lower back that he had been dealing with. Well, I mean, yeah, it's the same lower back, of course, like he didn't have a back replacement, but same lower back issue that he was dealing with last year. But on the more concerning front is the fact that Muprhy, who has been dealing with an oblique issue, they initially thought it was a back issue, but it's actually an oblique issue. He has yet to resume any type of activities. It hasn't been baseball activities or just physical activities, generally speaking. And when we asked Melvin about him today, I believe his exact quote was, he didn't wake up feeling great. It was something to that effect. And given that we start Cactus League games in 2 days, that's going to be important as we're trying to project the opening day roster going forward. It's safe to say that Muprhy isn't going to play in the first week of spring training games. It might also be safe to say that he's probably not going to play in the second week of spring training games. And even when he does play, it is going to be a matter of how he feels. And if the Giants end up being in a situation where Muprhy isn't available to play, that means the natural option from there is Sam Huff, someone who they had claimed off waivers from the Texas Rangers in January. Huff has played parts of 4 major league seasons. If you look at his numbers in total, he's actually had pretty solid offensive numbers. I want to say it's 7 homers in 40-something games. I'm sure the editor version of myself will throw them up on the screen for you right here. Hasn't rated out super well defensively, but again, it's not a super large sample size that we're exactly extrapolating from here. Only played 3 games last year with the Texas Rangers, spent pretty much the entire season with the Rangers AAA affiliate. So again, if Muprhy isn't going to be healthy enough to play in these spring training games and isn't healthy for the opening day roster, which again, we don't know at this current juncture, there's a lot that can happen over the next 5 weeks, Huff is the natural person to take his place in the backup catcher role. We also have Max Stassi in camp, who hasn't played in the majors since 2021, but has been a very active participant in the live bullpens. And speaking of live bullpens, today was actually a nice change of pace as far as the pitchers dominating the hitters. We talked about in the first couple days of the full squad workouts how the hitters were kind of taking charge. Willy Adames, of course, hitting 3 homers over the course of the first 3 days. Elliot Ramos hit the absolute bomb off Justin Verlander. And Ramos told me that he thought, if you kind of look here, he thought that he hit it off of the light fixture there, and then it bounced off the scoreboard, because if you kind of look at the video, he wasn't looking at where the ball was traveling. He kind of like looked down towards the first base side. And when he told me that yesterday, I was kind of wondering from a laws of physics perspective how that was really possible. Like, in my head, I'm like, it makes most sense for that ball to just have gone off the scoreboard. But the Los Gigantes Twitter account, X account, whatever we're calling it these days, tweeted out the video, and instead of it bouncing off the light fixture and off the scoreboard, it had actually just hit the San Francisco Giants logo right next to where it says Scottsdale Stadium. So that was all the more impressive than it bouncing off the fixture and bouncing off the scoreboard. But if the first couple days were defined by the hitters, today was defined by the pitchers, especially Robbie Ray, who threw 2 ups today. I want to say he induced 6 total whiffs over 34 pitches. I think 5 of them or 6 of them, a good chunk of them, were at the expense of Elliot Ramos. But again, in the same way that over these first couple days we're relying solely on eye test, and in the same way that Justin Verlander looked really good as well, Robbie Ray looked really good as well. And the grunts, as you will see, were in full effect today.